If you've ever seen the words desert blues used to describe Malian music, my intention is that this episode will cure you of that habit forever. And if you've never heard of lobi traoré, that's exactly the point. Hey folks, Eric from Orchestra Gold, and this is the Gold Transmission. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going inside one of our songs, we're going inside someone else's. Today, Habibis, we're talking about what is, in my humble opinion, one of the most amazing pieces of edgy, bamana, rockish sounding guitar music to come out of Mali. And this is the album Bwati by the criminally underrated Malian guitarist Lobi Traoré. Let's go. Okay, so I have this dream. I'm in Flea's house. Yeah, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't know why Flea shows up in my dreams. He's like an archetypal figure for me or something like that. And at some point, one of his kids drops this big glass crystal bowl and it just shatters on the floor. Glass is everywhere. And it's really weird. They just kind of leave it there and they're just walking around it or they're pretending it doesn't exist. It's like they're above cleaning it up or they're oblivious or I'm not even sure what. Me and my family are there and we're just standing around like, what kind of people are these? What kind of hospitality is this? So we finally just start cleaning it up. I wanted to start with that. I don't usually take my dreams literally. This dream really isn't about Flea, the person, but it's more about what he represents. I actually have a lot of respect for Flea, and he's definitely one of my childhood rock heroes who is probably way more healed than the average. But I think what the dream was saying to me is that stardom doesn't always come with the character work to match it, and it's better to seek the personal transformation than it is to seek the egoic gratification that comes from the spotlight. I've been doing a lot of inner work over the last few years, and that's really forced me to look at where my own identity has been seeking status through the band and other things in order to just feel valuable or feel like I matter as a person. Clinging to this idea of being a successful musician or whatever it is. And when I started kind of pulling on that thread, something's kind of shifted. I'd realized I'd rather use this podcast to talk about things that really matter to me than to use it to optimize for reach or for whatever I think is going to command people's attention and bring more eyes to it. And one of those values is equity. Specifically recognizing musicians who deserve way more credit than they got, regardless of whether talking about them is going to help our SEO. And that brings us to Lobi Traoré. Before we get into Lobi, though, I want to talk about genre. And before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from. I lived in Mali for several years. I can speak Bamana passably well, and I'll be honest, my ego likes telling people that it's sort of like a musician's badge of honor. So I also have to check myself and say, I'm not an authority. I'm not from West Africa. I'm not black. I'm giving you my best informed perspective, and it may not be the only one. What I do know is that I love this music, the music of Mali, and the music I'm about to share with you here today deeply. And because I love it, I want to talk about it accurately, to the very best of my ability to do so. Which brings me to this phrase, desert blues. Here's the thing, desert blues doesn't exist as a genre in Mali. If you went to Mali and asked someone for desert blues, nobody would know what you were talking about. It's a marketing term. It's probably invented by promoters and labels in the US and Europe who realized there's an audience for certain kinds of Malian music and they needed a shorthand to sell it. Now, I want to be really clear about something before I go further. I think it's great when musicians from West Africa find new people to listen to their music. It's good for everyone. And using a label may help Western audiences find music that they might later come to love. I get it. I understand the impulse. And here's what I've come to believe. Even this well-intentioned framing comes with the cost. Let me give you a hypothetical. Imagine I'm in an Eastern European country and I love the bebop music that comes from African American musicians from New York. But bebop is a word that's hard to say or conceptualize in my country, so I come up with a new word for it. Let's just say, for the pure sake of ridiculousness, let's say I call it smiglia. And pretty soon, everyone in my country is using the word smiglia. Journalists are using it. And then promoters and marketers realize that there's an audience for smiglia. And eventually, those African American artists who actually made the music come to the country. And someone asks them, "Do you play smiglia?" And they're like, "What?" That's essentially what desert blues is. And there's another layer here that the smiglia analogy doesn't really capture, and I want to name it carefully. It's power. Call it racial hierarchy, call it white supremacy, call it whatever you want, but it's a real thing, and there's real history behind it. There's a podcast that I highly recommend called A History of Rock Music in 500 Songs by Andrew Hickey. And he has an episode about John and Alan Lomax. If you didn't already know, the Lomaxes were white American folklorists who went around recording black blues musicians for the Library of Congress in the 30s and the 40s. And what Hickey shows is that the Lomaxes weren't capturing what these musicians actually played for their own audiences. They were capturing what they thought typical black music should sound like. So they were taking these sophisticated entertainers and filtering them through their own framework. Now, yes, you are right. Desert blues is not the Lomaxes. I want to say that clearly. Nobody's dragging Malian musicians into a recording studio and telling them what to play and what not to play. But here's what they share. In both cases, it's someone outside the culture who gets to decide what the music means, what it's called, and who it's for. Now, the Lomaxes did that explicitly, and desert blues does it commercially. The scale is different, and the direction is the same. What I trust about Hickey, and this is why I'm dropping his episode into our feed for this week, is that he also turns the lens on himself. He admits that he's a white man who loves a lot of black music, but is kind of disconnected from it, just like the Lomaxes, and just like me. I'm in the same position with Malian music. I love it deeply, and for as long as I've spent studying it, in some ways, in many ways, in most ways probably that matter, I'm still an outsider to it. So when people with more resources and more access decide how to frame your music for other people, that framing sticks, even when it flattens things that make the music interesting. And desert blues is a mild version of this. It makes Malian music, certain types of Malian music, legible to Western audiences, but it also makes it smaller than it actually is. So how have I heard Malians actually talk about lobi's music and about genre? Well, there's a lot of different languages in Mali. A primary one, perhaps the most widely spoken, is the Bambara language, pronounced Bamana in their language. I use those two ways of saying it somewhat interchangeably when I talk. There's a word in Bambara sia. And sia loosely translates to ethnicity or tribe or nation, but it can also be more than that. It can mean social group, it can mean a caste of people. I've even heard it occasionally used to refer to people from a specific region. And this word sia is one of the main ways that Malians talk about their musical genres. So Lobi Traoré, for example, his sia is bamana. Lobi plays bamana music. That's how I've heard Malians describe it. It's not desert blues, it's bamana music. I'll give you some more examples. Have you heard of the band Songhoi Blues? An amazing band, by the way. Check them out. Well, that word Songhoi is their sia. That's their culture. That's their language. That's their ethnic identity. They're Songhoi people. So Malians, I've heard Malians call their music Songhoi music. Vie Farkature and Ali Farkature are from the same ethnic group. They're also Songhoi. So Malians call their music also Songhoi music. Now, I know there are marketing efforts to paint these artists into Western genre boxes. And I know sometimes the artists themselves will tap into these genre boxes because they want to be heard in certain ways outside of their country. For example, Songhoi Blues. But I think it behooves us to try and use the frames that the people who created the music actually use in their home country, even if it takes a little bit of work. And here's why that matters beyond just accuracy. Most of this music comes from oral tradition, and oral tradition holds things differently than written ones. Written ones can flatten things. They can tend towards taking a position either or, this or that. My teacher said it was this, so it can't be that. I see this a lot in our djembe music. We as students come in with this either or energy. And music just isn't like that. It's a both and. It's multiple things being true at the same time. You know, Lobi's music is bamana. To me, it sounds really psychedelic. I hear blues in it because of the minor pentatonic connection. I also hear rock in it, and none of those cancel each other out. But this desert blues label forces an either or that actually doesn't exist. The both and version of the story is much richer, much more accurate, and I believe, at least in my personal humble opinion, more respectful of what Lobi actually made. Okay, so let's actually talk about Lobi for a second. Lobi Traoré was born Brahima Traoré in 1961 in Bakarijana, Mali. This is a small village on the Niger River, right near Ségou. Both of his parents were singers. At 16, he traveled to Ségou. At 19, he discovered Zani Diabaté and the Super Jata band playing the bamana music that he came to love. We may do another episode on Zani Diabaté and the Super Jata band because they're really important. So Lobi starts playing weddings, then bars. He is really notably known for playing the Bozo bar in Bamako. And that's one of the places where his sound matures. His breakthrough album was Bamako in 1994, and that was produced by Ali Farkature and released on Buddha Music, a French label. He got a lot of acclaim in France. It was voted one of the best rock albums of the year by the widely read French newspaper Libération, and he was also talked about as one of the best world music albums. And it was also talked about as one of the best world music albums by another prestigious French newspaper, Le Monde. He made other records, he toured, he collaborated with Bonnie Raitt, Chris Ekman, and others. Shout out to Chris Ekman at Glitter Beat. Lobi described his own songs, and this is really interesting to me. This kind of cuts to the heart of it. Lobi describes his own songs as chants orphelins mélancoliques, orphaned, melancholic songs. And then, tragically, on June 1, 2010, he died suddenly in Bamako at the age of 49. I got to meet Lobi a few times when I was living in Bamako. The last time I saw him must have been around 2007, 2008, and we were at a concert near the Niger River in Bamako. I don't remember if he was playing or he was just there, but I remember the setting. It was really beautiful. The river, the night, and it kind of juxtaposed with his energy. He's very sweet, he's very cordial, he's very polite, and he was very sad too. He was telling me about everything he had done, all the work, all the music, and somehow it really felt like he had bigger expectations for where things would end up. He was kind of venting to me a little bit, and I just listened, feeling his sadness. I really loved his music even then, and I tried to do what I could to gently reassure him. But maybe he just needed another human to listen to him in that moment, and I couldn't really find the right words to do it justice. What makes Lobi's music special? Lobi's music is rooted deep in the music of Ségou. Ségou is a town about 2.5 hours northeast of Bamako. It's the historic capital of the Bambara Empire, and for Malians, even more than Bamako, Ségou is associated with Bambara music. It's a Bambara city in the deepest sense. And that matters because Lobi's music doesn't sound like it could have come from anywhere else. It really sounds like it came from exactly where he came from. And if you ever want to hear the Ngoni Jelly Griot version of this Ségou Bamana tradition, go listen to Basekou Kouyaté, incredible musician. And I also have 2 episodes on my YouTube channel about my own teacher from Ségou, Mohamed Diawara, Medsan, and I'll link to those in the show notes. Back to Lobi. So his music is very Bambara, and yet it goes deeper, especially on the album we're going to talk about today. It's really deeply influenced by 60s and 70s psychedelic guitar. My personal take, probably Jimi Hendrix most of all. There's a real edge to it. And then there's this transcendental, almost shamanistic quality to his guitar playing when he solos that's very hard to pin down. Lobi played mostly with his fingers, and you can hear that there's a directness to it. There are mistakes in there too, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, he's not a technically perfect guitar player. He is an amazing transcendental guitar player, and he's channeling something, and you can really feel it. And here's the thing about all of it. The Ségou roots, the Hendrix influence, the mistakes, the almost like ritualistic sound of his solos, none of it really fits neatly into a genre box. It's kind of all those things at once. It's both and, not either or. And that's why this chants orphelins mélancoliques, is such a perfect description. Sad, orphan songs that don't belong to any one set of parents. And that's exactly what makes this desert blues label feel wrong. Lobi wasn't performing inside of any of his country's normal genres. He also wasn't performing inside of any of our normal genres. He was just being himself. Okay, now to get to the album. The full title of this album is Bwati, which means in the club. This was released in 2010 on Kanaga system Krush, also known as KSK. It was Lobi's last album before he passed. May he rest in peace. Guitar Player magazine called it Lobi's best album ever, and I agree. This was produced by Asia Salvatore, mixed and mastered by Fritz, and Asia Salvatore at Prairie Sun Studios. If you've never heard of Fritz, he engineered Tom Waits' Mule Variations, Blood Money, and Alice. He won a Grammy for that. He's worked with Iggy Pop, the Ramones, Herbie Hancock. He's a heavyweight, and he brought that to the record. This album was recorded live in 2 separate sessions. In the first session, The first session was recorded in February 2007 at Espace Académie. This is a club where Lobi played regularly for about 2 years. And the second session was recorded in February 2008 at the courtyard behind a well-known Nigerian, quote, hotel in Bamako. The quotes around hotel are in the liner notes, and I'll just leave it at that. The choice to record live is masterful and matters a lot to this recording. Lobi's music is structured improvisation. You can hear real-time decisions being made. You can hear the ensemble responding to each other. And that energy is just harder to capture in a studio, especially in Mali, where structured improvisation is more of a natural state than like straight up arranged songs. The people at KSK who made Bwati Kono went the opposite direction from Lobi's previous records, which had been studio productions. Studio productions with a certain cleanness, a certain polish. This record's different. It's more raw. The bass is fat, the drums crack. You can hear the influence of hip-hop production and the tape-influenced aesthetic that we love so much here at Orchestra Gold. It sounds alive. It's like big and loud and raw, and it just fits the music perfectly. The instruments on the album: electric guitar, bass, drum set, djembe, and balafon on some tracks. So Lobi's on lead guitar, Bako Diarra plays rhythm guitar, Lamine Soumano on bass, Segu Diarra on drum set, Adama Sissoko on djembe, and Moribo Kouyaté on balafon. Okay, like I was saying, you gotta get this album. I'm serious. Okay, let's dig into it. We're gonna listen to these one by one. So this is the first track, Makono. Makono means wait. According to the liner notes, this is a love song telling one's love to wait for him. The drumming on this is surprisingly sparse. It's just really in the pocket. And there's this weird, wonderful solo at the end that I just love. This is a good entry point. It sets the tone for the rest of the record. Check it out. Here it comes. The next track is Banani. The liner notes describe this track as follows: everybody has his own love. One should not interfere with another's private life. This is where it gets really Hendrix. I'm not sure if Lobi's got a phaser or a univibe pedal, but the guitar solo here is just so Jimmy. The rhythmic sensibility, it's just amazing. And then they go into this amazing breakdown with the djembe and the drums and the bass. And again, the drum set is just super tight and simple. A lot of the song is just them grooving, and it's amazing. Okay, the next track is Jama, which, again, deferring to the liner notes here, means public, someone who's loved by people. I love the guitar riffs. This song is based on a rhythmic pattern from Segu called Segu Bara. Check out the accompaniment that's panned on the right channel. So good. The instrument on the left, to me, sounds like a djembe being played with a stick, which is something that happens a lot in Segu. And then Lobi hits this overdrive pedal at the end of this track, and the whole thing just opens up, and it's really just one of my favorite moments on the album. Check it out. You gotta get this record. Come on, listen to this. Okay, this next song, Maliba, is, again, according to the liner notes, a song dedicated to the farmers of Mali. Another thing we're going to talk more about in the future is how a lot of these djembe, these guitar players from Mali end up making their guitar sound almost like a djembe with the rhythmic articulation and the sensibility. So this is a good example. He's shuffling through these rhythmic patterns, and it's the most direct example on the entire album of what it means for music to really sound like it comes from a specific place. So Lobi's definitely got other records out there that you can check out, possibly even ones that made a bigger impact commercially. However, for me, hands down, Bwati Kono is the record that finally captured what lobi actually sounded like. Raw, alive, super rooted, and yeah, kind of psychedelic bambara music. And the sad part is that that record came out the same year that he died. Lobi deserved more. And I think he knew it too, and that's probably the hardest part. Honestly though, if 3 more people listen to this album and are blown away by it just like I constantly am, I would consider this episode worth it. Hell, even if that doesn't happen, it's still worth it just to relive this beautiful music. I remember back when I was talking to him by the river in Bamako, and I didn't really know what to say to make him feel better. Maybe, just maybe, this episode is my way of completing that sentence. Lobi, may you rest in peace. That's it for this one. This is Eric Huffaker from Orchestra Gold, and this is the Gold Transmission. If you want to go deeper, the vault is where we keep the good stuff, demos, unreleased recordings, behind-the-scenes music, and more. It's a pay-what-you-want subscription model, and you can get in for as little as $4 a month. Find it at orchestragold.com. And by the way, we really do want to hear from you, what you liked, what you didn't, and what you want more of. Reach out to us at orchestragold@gmail.com. See you on the next one, everyone.